Hello. I'm going to do something kind of fun today. This might be a slightly longer video. I'm going to go through the process of creating a silicone squishy fidget stim toy from start to finish. So we're beginning with this. This is called Alien Clay. It's a Monster Clay is the more famous brand of this stuff, but the Alien Clay is what I've got. It's wax based, so I have warmed it up a little. Just using hot water that makes it squishy, and when it cools, it will solidify. So you have a work time with this stuff, but it's easy to warm it up and work more with it. I picked this for this project because my actual favorite clay, which is called Freeform Air, is wonderful stuff, but also teletoxic. So I have a hard time recommending it to other people. But this stuff, I mean, you could eat this. It's just wax. It's fine. So what we're going to do is shape this into something. And let's hit a little flat spot there. Let's see. And and I'm planning on making a, oops, now, I'll get it started at least. I may finish it off camera, because it can take a while. I'm planning on making a pitcher plant, carnivorous Sarracenia purpurea, a carnivorous plant native to North America, actually. A lot of people think of pitcher plants as tropical, but that is not true. The Nepenthes species are tropical, but the Sarracenia are temperate. And I used to grow, I live in Oregon, I used to grow Sarracenia purpurea here. Unfortunately, they're mild temperate. You get them around, I think that they're in the Carolinas. And there's a native species here in Oregon, but it's called the cobra plant, cobra pitcher. It got too cold, anyways. It was doing really great, and then we had a particularly cold winter, and oops, no longer had my lovely pitcher plant. I may try again sometimes and just bring it in when it gets cold. So, so that is the planned project. And hollow that out. There you go. And this is my favorite sculpting tool. They're great. For some reason they sell them as quote-unquote dental tools, but you will never see your dentist use one of these. I don't know, maybe historically they were dental tools? But they're actually only made for art these days. They're sculpting tools. So I don't know why they're sold as dental tools. Alright, we're getting the top, little upper leaf, little lip. My clay is starting to cool though. So I'll need to put it back in the hot water to warm it back up. So I'm going to end this segment of the video now. And when I come back, I'll have this all finished. And we'll be ready to make a mold of it so I can make copies of it in silicone. It'll be quite fun. So, see you in a moment. And here we are. I've stuck it down to my surface for ease of mold making, but there is my sculpture. One Sarracenia purpurea pitcher leaf. Alrighty, so I'm going to be making what's called a glove mold, which is a layer of silicone over your original that you then can peel off like a glove. Although I like to make thick glove molds. I don't actually necessarily turn them inside out when I demold. I just don't like having a brick. A brick of silicone makes demolding a pain in the butt, regardless of whether you turn it inside out or not. having the thinner layer just makes it easier to get the thing inside, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix up some platinum cure silicone. Now, when I first started molding things, I used tin cure silicone. I used Smooth-On's Umu, which is a wonderful product, and the tin cure is much cheaper. However, tin cure is temporary. After about a year, I had to throw out all the molds I made with that stuff because they crumbled. They fell apart. Tin cure doesn't last. Tin cure is also not body safe, food safe. Yeah. For stim toys, the fact that it crumbles and the fact that you shouldn't put it in your mouth or other orifices just means it's terrible. So I use platinum cure silicone. They make platinum cure silicone specifically for mold making. There's various kinds, Mold Star and Rebound and all these various, but I just buy the one kind for the toys and for the molds. I just buy the regular stuff that comes semi-clear. Comes in two parts. This is a part A and a part B. In this specific one I'm using, this is called Dragon Skin 10. Dragon Skin is the product line. 10 tells you how hard it will be when it's done. It's called the Shore Hardness Scale, and 10A is very firm, but still quite squishy and extremely stretchy and flexible in the Dragon Skin. Dragon Skin is super durable. I love this stuff. So I'm going to use it for the mold, and then I'm actually going to cast the toy out of it, too, when I'm done. So we'll get to that part. So right now we're going to make the mold, and I'm going to paint it on in a couple of layers. I'll just show you the first layer, then it has to cure. It takes about 45 minutes to cure. I have a product that can speed that up, but I'd rather take my time and not worry about having to put it on fast. And then after 45 minutes, when it's just started to set, I'll paint a second layer on while it's still sticky. If you wait for it to cure completely between layers, the layers can what's called delaminate. As you turn the mold inside out, they'll start to come unstuck from each other. So you want to add your second layer when your first layer is still just barely gooey, but no longer liquid. But that's for the future. For now, let's mix. So here's part A, and I just need enough to paint a thin skin on this, so we're not going to use very much. So we're just going to dip out a little. Look at that stuff, isn't it gloopy? I love this stuff. The other Platinum Cure regular silicone I use is called EcoFlex. It's exactly like this, except for it's much, much thinner to pour. It's not as viscous. And it also sets up very, very firm. Or not very, less firm. It sets up very, very soft. There's the word I'm looking for. Alright, so you got a little bit of the part A. And I'll wipe my brush off here. I forgot to get a paper towel. Whatever. My fingers can be sacrificed. And then a little bit of part B. You want to try to not get your part A in your part B until you're ready to mix them. So, a little bit of each. Now we stir. And you want to stir for a good long while. When I have a big batch of the stuff, I'll stir for a full minute to make sure it's completely mixed. You want every individual drop utterly mixed up. You don't want any possibility of a tiny bit that doesn't get mixed, because a tiny bit that doesn't get mixed will stay liquid and ruin your mold. Bad times. Don't let it happen. Yeah. You mix it up in the bucket before you pull it out, too, because the part that makes it cure, which does actually contain platinum, that's why it's called Platinum Cure. It's not like, oh, it's platinum best quality. I mean, it is the best quality. It's called Platinum Cure because it literally is made with platinum. That's the catalyst that makes it cure. Anyways, but the part with the platinum in it will separate out to the bottom of the bucket. So you gotta stir good. And now we're just gonna paint this on my surface. Here, let's pick this up so I can... Oop! Oh, and it came unglued. I was afraid that was going to happen. Oh well. You just paint it on the whole thing and then stick it down with the silicone. See? Failure. It just means you do something different. That's all. Alright. Get a nice layer. Oh, my fingers are a mess. Silicone bonds permanently with fabric, by the way. Comes off of you just fine. Stuff on my fingers will not be a problem, but try not to get it on your clothes. If you do, and it's mixed silicone, you're gonna. It is forever. It will not come out. All right. So there, it's all nice and gooey. I'm all nice and gooey. I just stick it back down. Actually, let's make a little puddle on the bottom to stick it into. And of course, not having a clean surface on the bottom means that I'm going to have to trim off that bottom when I finish my mold. But all right, so there's our next step. Made a mold. Put this layer on. Obviously, this is just way too thin right now. The layer is too thin. So, like I say, I'll let it partially cure. I'll add another layer. I'll probably do 3, maybe 4. When I'm making really big molds, I'll use a thickener to make the layers thicker, but the thickener traps air bubbles, so you don't get a smooth cast when you use that. Techniques. This works just fine for what we're doing here. Thin skin, several layers, paint each layer right before it finishes curing, and I'll come back and film some more when it's ready to pull the mold off of the original. See you in a moment. And we're back. So here is our finished mold. If you're wondering why the green, the silicone comes clear. But I find it's hard when you're painting a layer of clear over clear to be certain you've gotten all the spots. So the next layer I'll put a little drop of pigment in just to be able to see it. And I happen to use green because I accidentally double ordered green pigment, so I have green coming out my ears. So green. So the mold is green. So let's peel this puppy up and see what we've got. So, all set. Very flexible. Yeah, because I had to stick it down at the bottom. There's a little layer of silicone there. All right, first thing I'm going to do is just trim off a little excess. I'm going to leave a rim. I don't want to trim it right down to this, because having a little rim makes it easier to stabilize the mold when you're pouring. You'll see that later. But right now we're just trimming the edges. And then we'll trim the inside so I can get the master sculpt out. The alien clay can deform coming out of the mold. It's one of the reasons why I like the freeform air better, because it's less likely to, but like I said, it's toxic. And alien clay is very safe. So we're going to trim. Yeah, I got just this little layer that's sealing our master sculpt in there. And trim that off neatly as we can. I want the edges to be smooth if I can get them that way. It's easier said than done. It doesn't super matter. It just can help the bottom of the final cast be a little neater. Let's see. So just trim that. Alright, so here we go. There's our original. Let's pull this glove mold off. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, and I ended up using like 5 layers. It took a few. So here we go. Out it comes. Oh, is it going to come out cleanly? Oh, it looks like it might. Knock on wood. Oh, aha! Alright, that came out nice and neat. Now we have a mold. So, oh, whoop, I forgot to grab it. Hang on, just one sec. Alright, next thing we need, mold release. This is what I like to use. It's liquid mold release. Many people use a spray mold release, but I prefer the liquid. I find it more controllable. Because if I pour silicone into silicone, silicone likes to bond with silicone. And of course it may eventually delaminate, but you can't just pull it out. If you don't put in a mold release, your cast and your mold will become one. And you will have a brick. Just trimming a little extra here. So we're going to take some mold release, take a little plastic pipette, and we're just going to soak the top or I might spill some in the inside with that. Just smear it all over. This stuff is not super toxic. Like, don't eat it. Do not drink it. Don't get it in you, but it's fine to handle. So it's not going to hurt you. So, you know, get a little more. Just get it all down in there, squish it around, and get it absolutely everywhere. Make sure it is everywhere, and then you pipe out the excess, put it back. You don't want to waste it. Alright, and then I'm going to flip this out upside down to make sure if there's any little drips I didn't get, they drain. In about a minute, I'll flip it right side up to let it air out and dry. You want the mold release layer to dry, and it should feel just a little greasy. If you want to touch it, it should feel slightly greasy but not wet. That means it's ready. So when it's dry, in just a few minutes, we'll come back for the next step. And here we are again. So I've got the mold. I've put it in a paper cup that I had to cut a little bit away for it to fit. That's so that the top will be level. And I've picked a color. We're going to go with some gold. Just had a sample of gold pigment, might as well. And so now we're going to take the same silicone I used to make the mold, and we're just going to mix that together with a bit of the gold pigment. So I'm not actually, now, it's hard to film everything that happens here. We're going to have but because a lot of the time I like to vacuum the silicone. I have a vacuum chamber, you put it in, pump pulls out the air, so then the vacuum pulls out all of the various gas bubbles that are dissolved in the silicone. And for long-term body uses, if you know what I mean, that is ideal, because without that there can be microscopic, tiny, invisible bubbles in your silicone, and those bubbles can harbor bacteria and become unclean after coming into contact with the human body. So, you know, you don't want that. But for just a fidgets, for the stimmy, squishy, play with toys, that's not a big deal. And even like for the oral stim, if you're going to eat it, it's only a problem if you keep repeatedly sucking on it, because of course eventually it's going to get mouth bacteria in there and stop being safe. But it's not a big deal if you're going to chew it up, if you're doing destructive chew toys. So for this first test, I'm just going to pour it straight in. We're not going to worry about the vacuuming micro bubbles. The macro bubbles will just rise to the surface of the silicone and vanish. No big deal. So this first one I'm making is not certified long-term body safe, but it is still platinum cure silicone. There's nothing toxic in it. So we're going to pour this in. Like I said, it takes about 45 minutes to set, so once it's all poured, we wait about 45 minutes, and then we'll see what we've got. I'm going to try and pour it in a very thin stream to help it go down in there and fill all the cracks and crannies and not have any little bubble voids form. Because the molds sometimes have little narrow areas, particularly the tips of the leaves on this are going to want to hang on to bubbles. Anything that's narrow, has a point on it, the small area is just going to want to have bubbles, so you pour it in slowly so it oozes down into those areas. As I pour it in a big gloop, it's going to fill up the top and trap bubbles down at the bottom, right? Also, pouring in slowly when you use a mica pigment can leave the end result looking pretty cool, because all those little bits will form ripple patterns down in there. We'll see how this comes. This is being a little funky. But just let it go down. This is one of those things I could do this as the, ASMR satisfying video if I wasn't talking over it with my weird voice, just watching silicone bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. It is so satisfying. Damn. Alright, there we go. The mold is full. Full plus a little. I'm not going to worry about that. We'll trim that off when we're done. Tap it just to encourage any bubbles that might have formed anyway to come on up to the surface. And I'm gonna swirl this into a nice little swirl on the top. So it has that swirly pattern. Alright, so the last step is going to be taking it out of the mold and doing just a little finishing. So for now, I will leave you again, and I'll see you in just a minute. Well, we have arrived at the end. So, our mold, thing in the mold, it's all set up. Pretty set up. So let's get it out. Peel, and just peel these little overpour bits up. Shrip, 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 get all our edges. Alright, and then we'll pull the mold back. Pull this guy out. Ooh, stretchy. Whee! Bloop. Yeah, man. It's very different from pulling the master out, since that's solid and this is squashy. And you can see how it wants to stick to the mold, because they're both silicone. They want to be one, but I did put enough mold release in, looks like. Oh, here we come. Bloop. And there it is. Yeah, you agree, huh? There is my little golden pitcher plant. Isn't that lovely?
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Oop, I forgot to grab my scissors. I gotta trim it. Scissors, come here. Oh, I'm so organized. All right, so we're just gonna trim off the excess. It's these little bits that spilled over.
Okay.
Yes, off they come. Zoop. Trim off that. Hey. All right, that looks pretty good. So, there is one more step. I'm not going to bother to film because that would be pointless. The mold release can leave just a tiny bit of oily residue on this. It tastes like crap if you're a chewer. And, you know, petrochemicals, it's not super toxic, but we don't want it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to pop it into the sink with warm water and just a little bit of soap. Scrub it up, dry it off, and then it'll be completely finished and ready to send out to some lucky person. So thank you all for joining me for this video. I've enjoyed doing this. It's a little longer than what I've done before, but it's quite fun. Squish. Oh, we gotta show the stretch. Boink. Look at that. That is stretchy, squishy. Yay. Yeah, it's a little longer than what I've done before, a little more involved, but I had fun doing it. I hope you had fun watching it, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.